and welcome to the Joinery Business Podcast. My name is Nigel from the Joinery Coach. Today I'll be talking about the daily management system. So when we're talking about a daily management system in a workplace, this is the process that the management team use to hold things in place. Often when we start these journeys, we know the first thing we're creating is standards. And a good example I can use is when we implement a tool called 5S or workplace standards for our workbench area. What we typically want to do is create a photo at the end of the day that represents the standard of how we'd like the work area left. This can be for a machine, it can be for a workbench, it can be for a rack of consumable hardware or equipment that we're using. But the idea is every day we want to return it to what's shown in the picture, which is typically going to be a clean and usable condition and the things put away into their respective address or home. What we want to see is a frequency of checking on that process. So if it was a 5S end of shift condition for a workbench or a machine, we'd have the photo clearly visible in the area, and we'd have a time of day that we want people to be able to down their tools and an allocated time, which might be 5 or 10 minutes, to put everything back so the work area looks like the photo.
The Joinery Business Podcast is sponsored by MaxCut Software. MaxCut is a small software business focusing on the cabinetry industry. Their main purpose and goal is to empower cabinet makers to estimate, cut, and complete cutless jobs more efficiently and easily without breaking the bank. Visit the MaxCut Software website linked in our description to try the free community edition of MaxCut Software to see what MaxCut can do for you.
So what we mean by a daily management process or daily management system is a routine around that expectation. Typically, we'd create the standard, allocate the time frame, put the picture up, and then ask the manager if the time frame was 10 minutes before the end of the shift. Then we'd ask the manager to go around at 10 minutes towards the end of shift as part of his routine and remind people to stop work and return the area to that workplace standard. Typically what happens, we'll create the standards, push them out into the environment, and then this thing called drift occurs. The guys will follow the standard for the first few days, maybe the first week or two, because it's new. They've been involved in creating it. Everyone's got a bit of excitement around it. But over time, as we get busy again or problems happen, we kind of forget about the standard and the work area starts to drift back to how it was before, which is kind of disorganized, things being left out, left on benches, things become hard to find again, or even worse, safety risks start to happen. So the daily management system is all about detecting drift from the standard. And if we have a routine for the responsible manager, so who's responsible for that standard? In this case, it's the production manager who looks after the shop. He might delegate that if it's a large team to the shop foreman, if he has a second in command, and that routine would be something they do every day without fail because it's part of the workplace organization system. Without that check being done daily, there's a good chance the process will drift and you'll end up back where you started, where things are not organized and not kept efficient. And the detection, depending on what the standard is and how often you're doing something, that sets the frequency of the check. So with the 5S example I've been talking about, that's an end of shift condition. So you'd want someone to be checking 5 or 10 minutes towards the end of the shift that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, following the process, putting their tools down, using the right cleaning equipment and achieving that end of shift condition. We're also there to observe the people doing that, because we might find that, hey, the broom's gone missing, or maybe the vacuum cleaner's not working. There may be issues with them trying to achieve that process, which we want to be aware of. So we can get the vacuum replaced, find where the broom's been put and put it back. So we're making sure the process is achievable in the time we've allocated. So if we're allowing for 5 minutes, we're watching that everyone comfortably made the cleanup and returned to standard within that 5 minutes. If not, then we might ask a few questions and we want to try and make that really easy to do. We may find that some people are following the standard and some aren't as well. That often can be a problem at the beginning, that we need to just remind people the standard is for everybody, and the daily management system is just that exactly, creating a routine for the responsible manager to ensure the process is being followed. The manager's not physically doing 5S himself, he's just making sure his team has what they need to be able to do that process each day. This is not just for that's just one example. It can also be for things like status. If we have a whiteboard that represents the status of what's happening on the factory floor, or maybe we have a Kanban board in the office that shows the status of the workflow in the office, then we want to have the same kind of mindset around that. If there's a daily meeting to update status, then it should be happening at a set time each day. And it should only take a few minutes. But someone needs to check that that meeting has happened and the status has been updated. So if there's someone in charge of the office team, whether that's sales and drafting, whoever's resident there should be someone observing, sitting in on that, and making sure that meeting's happening every day. If we're not updating status and running a meeting around that each day, the risk to the business is, maybe a job's sitting in approval for too long. We're not following up on it. Maybe a job is sitting in the sales pipeline and needs follow-up, and we're not following up on it because we weren't aware of that. We didn't review the status each day. But it should be quick and easy. So every time we create a new meeting that happens around status, that is a standard. It's a standard so everyone in the business knows where everything's at. And it happens, once or twice a day, and there's a visual representation of that information that's updated somewhere. It can be, a computer screen if the information is in the computer. Ideally, though, it wants to be visual management, so it wants to be on some kind of board in the workspace or in the office where everybody can see that board has been updated at a set time and that the information is live. So we know there's nothing falling through the gaps. If anybody is watching the actual video here, there's a picture on the back here that describes maintaining a standard through daily review. So this is the standard. We're saying, hey, might be the end of shift condition, and every day we're checking it. As soon as we stop checking it, drift occurs. So the standard is deteriorating. So tools aren't getting put away, dust is building up. It's getting to the point where what will happen is someone will notice. Could be the boss when he walks through, could be a customer walks through and says, hey, you know what, this is not a very clean shop. But suddenly there's a reaction. We'll clean things up. But you'll notice the deeper we drift, the longer the time to detect and correct back to the standard. And every standard needs to have some kind of daily management system wrapped around it, or it will suffer drift to the point where someone notices. And normally when it's noticed here, it's quite painful. So if it was the organization, the shop drifting, we may need to stop for a whole day, clean that all up and get it back to where it was, as opposed to every day stopping for 5 minutes and maintaining that standard. So what we don't want is a reactive environment. And that's exactly what this kind of dip, this drift creates. It creates a reactive environment, because in a reactive environment, we're not planning to stop for a whole day and clean and return things how they were. And that day will come out of our schedule. And now we're going to fall behind in workplace. So daily correction of standards is really important kind of behavior to start to understand, whether it's maintaining quality standards, production standards, visual standards for the workshop. They all need to be embedded into a management system. But the checks need to be really, really easy and routine. So we're not having to remember to do all the checks. They should just be part of our kind of standard work week or ideal work week at the management level. What the management system does for you, if you think about what it is, it's to maintain standards, to track performance and make sure performance is being monitored. And last of all, it's a response system. It is the management response system to a problem. And a problem is always going to be a deterioration of a standard in lean thinking, or a drift from desired condition. So if we don't have these things in place, we tend to have a lot of resets when we're on our lean journey, because things start to fall over very quickly and we're either thinking, it doesn't work here, or, we just can't get it, or guys aren't understanding what we're trying to get going. Typically what's missing though is a management routine around preventing drift from the ideal standard. What else it does for the management team, it creates a coaching opportunity. So as we're drifting and we're catching that, because we've got a routine around it to catch it when it drifts, we actually have an opportunity to speak to the individual that maybe it's the person that didn't clean up their bench that day, about the importance of the process. Also ask any questions about, was it difficult to do? Did you not have your equipment? Was there something not ready or right that stopped you being able to achieve the standard? Could sometimes be, hey, there's a way easier way to do this, and can we adjust process so we can do it in an easier way that instead of taking 10 minutes only takes 5. So it gives us an opportunity to look at any new process with any new standard we're creating, to make sure it's easy to follow, easy to maintain, and it drives us to actually engage our team members about these changes and make sure they're effective for them. If we kind of just create the standard, put it up on the workbench, hey, here's the photo, guys, and just tell them, hey, every 2:30 every day, stop and make sure your bench looks like that, and that's the last thing we do with it, I've got a very high probability that process won't last more than maybe 2-3 weeks before it starts to drift back to what the guys were doing before. So think of the daily management system as the mechanism that holds changes in place. hopefully that there was some gold in there for people listening in. Sometimes this is the kind of really obvious thing that's missing when we're seeing drift occur, or we're restarting the journey over and over again, especially around things like 5S, which is the whole purpose of 5S is to create standards throughout the business. Thanks for listening today, and see you next time.